practices. Cultural practices, like I explained in the previous lesson, are all the activities carried out in the farm in the course of crop production. That is, the activities performed in the farm before planting, during planting, and after planting. In the previous lesson, I stated the types of cultural practices as pre-planting operations, planting operations, and post-planting operations, where I explain pre-planting operations. In this lesson, I will be teaching planting operations. What are planting operations? They are activities carried out by a farmer after land preparation. That is, they are the activities that involve the sowing of seeds, seedlings, and other planting materials. They are the activities that involve putting the seeds or the planting material in the soil. All these activities performed in the farm are the things the farmer should be or ought to be aware of in the course of crop production. Before planting, the planting materials such as the seeds, the seedlings, the cuttings, the suckers, and so on should be taken from a healthy plant source. Now, they should be free from diseases and pest infestation. They should be viable, that is, in good condition, having the ability, the potential to germinate and give a proper growth. And the planting materials also should be sourced from reputable sources such as the Ministry of Agriculture, the Agricultural Development Project, the research centers, and so on. All these activities that are associated with planting operations, they include the following. The first on our list is date of planting. After date of planting, we have planting distances, also known as spacing. We have seed rates, nursery and nursery practices, capping, transplanting, and planting depth. Now we shall take these one after the other. When we say date of planting, we refer to the period of the year at which a particular crop is sown in order to produce well. Technically, you can plant at any period in time, but the thing is, to enable good productivity for the crop to produce well, there are seasons for respective crops. For instance, maize. Maize is particularly planted February and April for early maize, and also August and September for late maize in the southern part of Nigeria. However, in the northern part of Nigeria, the early maize is planted around June. Now, these differences in planting dates is hugely affected by rainfall. The amount of rainfall as at the period of planting determine if a farmer can plant or not. There are crops that require good rainfall. Such crops are usually planted at the beginning of the rainy season. However, there are crops such as leguminous crops that do not require too much rainfall, and as such, they are usually planted as at when the rain is about going. Examples of such crops include the likes of cowpea and groundnut. They are planted in the southern part of Nigeria when the rainfall is about ending towards August, September to enhance good productivity. This type of crops, when planted as at periods whereby the rain is still very much, they will only grow vegetatively without producing much fruit. Hence, it is very important to consider the date of planting. Every crop has their planting period, known as the date of planting. Note, date of planting is quite different from the sowing date. The sowing date is the exact day you planted the crops. However, the date of planting refers to the period in time that a particular crop is sown in the season of the year. Number 2, planting distance, also known as spacing. Distance is given between one stand of cultivated crop and another. This is to enhance good productivity. When planting crops, preference is usually given to this factor to enable crops to perform very well. When crops are planted too closely together, they will be overcrowded. They will be competing for nutrients, and as such, the crops will not do well. Therefore, when planting, cognizance should be given to the distance. Space should be provided between crops and between the rows. There is something known as inter-row distances, and there is something known as interplant distance. Now, when planting, provide space between the rows and provide space between the plants. It ensures that the land is not wasted because only a number of plants that the land can take is planted, and also it prevents overcrowding. Having a good knowledge of planting distance and spacing helps the crop to perform very well. Now let's consider some crops, some common crops, and the recommended distance or spacing that should be given to them. For instance, tomato, Lycopsychum esculetum. For tomatoes, there should be a row distance of 40 to 60 centimeter, while there should be a 30 to 50 centimeter between the plants. Between plants means between a stand and another plant stand. For okra, known as Abemuscus esculentus, there should be a distance between the row of about 60 centimeter to 90 centimeter. However, the distance between the plants is usually 30 centimeter between the plants. Cowpea, known as Vigna unguiculata. For Vigna unguiculata, there should be 60 centimeter to 90 centimeter between rows and 30 centimeter between the plants. For yam, Dioscorea species, there should be a distance of 1 meter by 1 meter. That is, between rows, 1 meter, and between the plants, 1 meter. For maize, there should be a distance of 90 centimeter between rows and 30 centimeter along the rows. For cassava, known as Manihot esculenta, there should be a distance of 1 meter between rows and 1 meter between the plants. For carrot, Dacus carota, there should be a distance of 4 centimeter between the rows and 1 centimeter to 15 centimeter along the rows, that is between plant stands. For rice, Oryza sativa, there should be a distance of 30 centimeter between the rows and 15 centimeter along the broadcast or the stands. Rice is usually broadcasted or drilled. Now, guinea corn, known as sorghum species. For sorghum species, there should be a distance of 60 centimeter apart for tall variety. And for the dwarf variety, there should be a distance of 20 centimeter to 30 centimeter. For granules, Arachis hypogea, there should be a distance of 25 centimeter apart. That is, in between rows and between the plants. Now let's talk about seed rate. What do we mean by seed rate? Seed rate is usually used to describe the amount of planting materials that are required to plant 1 hectare of land. They are usually measured in kilogram per hectare. Now when seeds are used for planting, these seeds should be measured to see if they will fit a particular size of land. If the plant parts are used, for instance, it is expressed in the number of stands per hectare. For instance, cassava cuttings. Cassava cuttings, then you express them in numbers of stands per hectare. Planting depth. Planting depth simply refers to the holes in which the seed or seedlings or planting material is put or planted. The planting depth, the extent to which one drills into the soil before planting the seeds. That is referred to as planting depth. Now, capping. Capping is a common practice, especially in yam production, whereby dry grasses are used to cover the surface of the yam seed. This is to prevent the scorching of the sun. Excessive heat that is coming from the sun is prevented from damaging the yam seed or yam set. Nursery and nursery practices. First of all, what is a nursery? A nursery is an area where seeds are first grown and tended for until the seedlings are strong enough to withstand the external condition of the permanent field. Before seeds are planted in the permanent seed, they are usually cared for in a place known as nursery. This place creates a conducive environment for them to perform well before they are taken to outside environment where they are planted permanently. The opposite of nursing is known as in situ planting. This is a condition whereby people plant directly into the field instead of nursing them first. Common crops that are particularly nursed include the likes of tomato, the likes of cocoa, and so on. However, plants like maize, it is uncommon to nurse them before planting in the permanent site. What are the advantages of nursery establishment? Why should we nurse seeds before planting? The first one is that for the seeds that are too small to be planted directly, also known as planting at stake or in situ, they are produced through nursery. You produce them through nursery before you plant them since they are too tiny. Point number two, seedlings that are too weak at tender age to compete with weeds, they are usually cared for in the nursery before planting at the permanent site. And proper care is given to crops so as to escape pest and disease attack. Some crops ordinarily cannot withstand pest and disease attack if planted directly, so they are planted in the nursery during that tender age for them to be cared for before transplanting. Only healthy plants are transplanted, thereby reducing the spread of diseases in crops. When you nurse in the nursery, you select only the viable ones, the good ones, to transplant to the permanent sites. It also gives uniformity in the growth of field crops. When crops are transplanted, every crop that grows in the field becomes uniform in height and quality. Point number 6, as a result of the good start given to the crops, high yield is obtained. When you nurse crops very well and you transplant to the permanent site, you get a good yield. Now let's look at the common types of nursery. There is ground nursery, also known as seed bed. There is seed trays, also known as boxes. And there is polythene bags. There are baskets and carton nurseries. The ground nursery technically is made in the ground. In this kind of nursery operation, you see that the soil is tilled in a predetermined fashion in such a way that the length is long, but the breadth of the seedbed is not that wide. In that way, the farmer can stretch and care for the seedlings. For seed trays or boxes, trays or boxes, as the word implies, they are used to nurse crops before transplanting to the permanent site. There are polythene bags. Polythene bags can also be used to nurse crops. This is particularly common in cocoa production, where you see seeds are planted in seed bags before being transplanted to the permanent site. When transplanting with seed bags, it is so easy as the whole polythene bag is taken, then the bottom part is cut open and then transplanted directly into the permanent site. Baskets can equally be used to nurse crops, and then carton nurseries are usually used for people that owns garden. What is transplanting? Transplanting is the act of lifting seedlings from the nursery and then planting them out in their permanent site or plot. When you lift seedlings from the nursery and you plant directly into a permanent site, that is known as transplanting operation. Most tree crops, they are planted with this method. That is, they are raised first in the nursery before transplanted to the permanent site. Examples include the likes of cocoa, the likes of orange, the likes of cola, etc. However, there are two types of transplanting. There are two methods of transplanting. There is ball of the head system. Then there is the naked root system. Ball of earth and naked root. These are the two methods of transplanting. We shall explain them one after the other. When a farmer transplants using the ball of earth, it transplants with soil still attached to the root of the crops. In that way, it transplants directly into the field with soil from the nursery still attached to the root of the crop, like a ball. This is to give the crop a good start. It helps to maintain the condition of the crop to make it not to wilt before picking up. Now, for the naked root system, the roots are uprooted from the soil directly. There is no soil attached to the root of the crops while they are being transplanted into the permanent site. This method is usually not that good, but the ball of earth system is particularly good for some crops that can experience wilting in their initial stage of transplanting. And as such, when transplanting, you should pick a method that is suitable for the crop to be used for transplanting. Okay, lovely students, we have come to the end of this lesson. In the next lesson, I will be teaching you post-planting operation. Mind you, all the things we have discussed so far, they are all cultural practices. And like I said earlier, there are three categories or classes of cultural practices. There are pre-planting operation, that is those operations carried out before planting. There are planting operation, that is those one carried out during planting, and there are post-planting operation. I will see you in the next class. Bye.